What a great learning day yesterday. We're excited about another one today. So we appreciate you bringing us all here together. So I'm going to stay on theme. I'm going to tell a little bit about our story and our path to being a great place to work. I am going to go back to 2001. Our business was about 4 years old in 2001. We had started out of the house, true entrepreneurial story. We had a 3-year run of kind of doubling the business every year. And in many ways, it seemed easier than we expected. It was going great. And then we got to year 4, and things started to break, and it was harder, and it was more stressful, and it was more complex. And I was a new entrepreneur. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know how to run a business. Fortunately enough, I was invited into this room at MIT. You've heard this program referenced a couple of times. John just referenced a program called the Birthing of Giants that Vern was hosting at MIT at the time. And that room is full of successful but slightly lost young entrepreneurs. Many of you are here today. Actually, I see a lot of my brothers here at this conference that are here as coaches or running businesses or exited businesses. So, but Vern started this program, and he was our host. And if you want to know what Vern looked like in 2001, you can look at him today because he hasn't changed a bit. I know a lot of you guys have known Vern for a long time. He's drinking from the fountain of youth. But this changed the trajectory of our company forever. And I learned a couple of really important things from Vern on the very first day we were there. First thing he did is laid out this incredible database case for why, if my business ever made it to 20 million in revenue or 50 or 75 million in revenue, that I wouldn't be the one running it, right? That the skill sets that I have as an entrepreneur were entirely different than the skill sets it took to scale and run a real business. And so this was new information for me. And so that was one thing I learned. The second thing that Vern said that day that was a little less interesting because I thought it was unrealistic, but I made a note of it. He said, figure out what you can be the best in the world at and go do that. And I thought that was interesting advice that kind of stuck with me. So I went back to my team and I said, listen, we don't know how to run a business. We got to figure this out. And we went on a learning journey that we just had our 20th anniversary that has been going on for 20 years. And the first step in that learning journey was I met this guy, Jim Collins. I didn't really meet him, metaphorically met him. But I read his book, Built to Last. And if anybody has read Built to Last, you know it's about creating an enduring business and his database study on how to do that. And the one thing that Jim taught us is that if you want to do that, the companies that have done that historically have a zealot commitment to core ideology, right? And so the first thing we did is we had to go and figure out what our core ideology is. And so he said, listen, if you figure out what your values are and you live those and you build your business around those and you figure out what your purpose is, then you got a great chance to be successful. And not only if you figure out what it is, but if you really focus on it, you focus on your values and your purpose. A lot of us, when we're running a business and we're young, we're focused on profits. Well, Jim taught me that, listen, if you focus on purpose, profits will come. And in fact, the companies that have done it successfully throughout history have been wildly profitable. And I like those words, wildly profitable. So we built our business around it. We figured out what our values were. We went through a discovery process. And it is a discovery process because most of you know this already, that values are not what you want to be, they're who you are. And so we had to discover what those were. We figured out what our core purpose was, and that was to create great employment experiences. And only when we figured that out did I understand this, figure out what you can be the best in the world at and build a business around it. Because that was the aha moment. I'm like, okay, maybe we can be the best in the world at creating great employment experiences. And that's what we set out to do with people, process, systems, the Rockefeller habits. We built them all around being successful at this, creating great employment experiences. And after all of the data, you've all seen the data from Gallup. Basically, 71% of my competition and your competition is not fully engaged at their companies, right? What a great opportunity that is for us, right? We're all in the people business. So if we can hire better people, Okay, we can grow better people, we can keep better people, we can get them working together great as teammates to one another, and get them to give us discretionary effort, then we've got a really great shot at winning, right? And so, to further validate this, the Great Place to Work Institute talks about sort of the financial ROI. A lot of times you think about creating a great place to work and you say, that's soft stuff, right? Well, over this 5-year period of time, the Great Place to Work Institute basically pulled out the data from the 100 best companies to work for and compared them to the rest of the market. And we know now that great places to work perform at 2x and more the general market. So there's a financial ROI to creating the best place to work. And so all you know this, right? And I'd say that most leaders and most CEOs actually know that this is true. And so, I often contemplated, and then why don't more people do it? Why aren't more organizations committed to building a great place to work? And is Jack Daly here somewhere? I saw Jack. There's Jack. So Jack illuminated this to me. Met Jack in that room at MIT as well. And Jack one day said, listen, the reason they don't do it is something he read from Stephen Covey is that we rush to the urgent at the expense of the important, right? And I'm like, wow, that's it, right? Building a great place to work, building a great culture is really never urgent. It takes a lot of discipline and rigor to do that because you're going to come into work every day and that message light's going to be blinking or that urgent email's there and you're going to forget to work on the things that are really, really important. So we didn't do that. We stayed very disciplined and rigorous around culture building, and it landed us on this list of great places to work. This is our sponsor, our partner here, Fortune Magazine, publishes this list from the Great Place to Work Institute every year. And we spent the last 12 years, the only one of 2 organizations that have been on this list for 12 years in a row. And in 2013, we were honored with the #1 ranking of the best small business to work for in America, which is really cool recognition and really cool validation. But the reason for our participation in this list, the more fundamental reason for it, is it keeps us sharp. And what gets measured gets done. And so this is our measurement tool for how we're doing. And we've been applying, this is the only list we've applied for over the last 20 years, because remember, our standard is we want to be best in the world. So we're not applying for our local list or our industry list. We want to be on this list. And if we can't make this list, then we're in trouble. So that, when you think about it, that kind of gets us to sort of most of where we want to be, right? We all want to work for a great place, but I think there's this other slightly different angle, and that is how engaged is your workforce. And I love this definition of engagement. It says an engaged employee is one who is fully absorbed by and enthusiastic about their work, and so takes positive action to further the organization's reputation and interests. And if you think about it, as an employee, I want to work for a great place to work. I want to work for a great organization, okay? As an owner, I want to have engaged employees. So you can see the nuance or the difference in those two. They're incredibly, inextricably related, but they're not exactly the same. So in addition to going through the rigorous process that the Great Place to Work Institute puts us through to evaluate how we're doing in this regard, we also go through the Gallup Q12 survey every other year or so. And so last year, we hired Gallup to do this. Really, it's incredibly inexpensive. They do a really good job with mid-market and small companies now. And we give Gallup all of our employees' emails, and they conduct this survey anonymously. And you can see down the left side, that's not meant for you to read, but it's really the 12 questions. If you don't know about the Gallup Q12, go read about it. It's millions of data points from employees for a long period of time trying to determine what makes them engaged. And so those are the questions over on the left side. And over here on the far right column is our percentile score compared to all the other companies surveyed in 2015. And so we did really well in the engagement survey, and Gallup called us and they said, hey, listen, you guys did something special. We want to consider you for recognition for the special award, the award Vern talked to us about just a minute ago. And so we were honored to get that award this year. Not only makes it a great place to work, but it really shows up with our customers and and it's really been the key driver to our growth over the years. We are a Jacksonville-based Florida recruitment company, and we partner with organizations to try to help them hire culture and value matches for their organization and do it more quickly than they were able to do without us. And so we've grown our business on the backs of this core purpose of trying to create great employment experiences. And so I wanted to talk just for a minute about some of that. I wish I had more time because I tell you a lot more about how we actually do this. I do want to touch on it a bit, but you know, when you hear or read about great places to work, you often hear about the sexy stuff, right? They talk about the foosball table and the on-site daycare and the free lunch and the free sodas and all those sort of things. And those things are great, and they're great augmenters for a culture, but they're not the reason that a culture is great. In fact, you do all those things at an organization that doesn't have trust, and then it's just a waste of money, right? And so really building a great place to work at its foundation, to me, is built on a trusting relationship with your employees. And there are really two fundamental building blocks to that in my mind, and those are transparency and communication. And I'll touch on communication just a little bit deeper and tell you that communication from a top-down perspective, lots of companies I think now get that right. You think about it, Walmart has 2.5 million employees in the world, and every single one of them is in a huddle before they start their shift, wherever you are in the world, right? And in that huddle, what's going on is some great top-down communication. When Sam Walton ran Walmart, he would go around to the stores with a yellow legal pad, and he would ask questions and listen and take notes. That's bottom-up communication, right? And so many organizations today will say, so many leaders will say, like, yeah, we have an open-door policy, my employees aren't afraid to talk to me. And what that really gets you is that's good, and that some of your employees will talk to you about some things some of the time when you do that. So if you want to be really great at bottom-up communication, you have to have processes and systems that mine for information from your employees, and you have to do it over and over and over again. And so that's part of our rigor to trying to build a trusting workforce. And when you do that, you really get a couple of things. You get not only their engagement, but their sort of implied ownership in that process, but you also get great information to run your business, right? And so a lot of times as entrepreneurs or business leaders, our egos can get in the way. If you really do have a great process in place where you're regularly mining your employees for information, you'll get a lot of great information to help you run your business. Bless you. So this is 2013, our trust index from the Great Place to Work Institute. Again, a percentile ranking of how we did in each of those categories. Again, I recommend it. It's a rigorous evaluation of your culture. If you don't know where to start, apply for this list and just go through the process. You'll learn a lot about yourselves in doing just that. I'd love to talk more about some of the other hows. This is my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me in an email or give me a call. If you want to talk about how to build a great place to work, it's my favorite topic. If you want to talk about recruiting and how we might be able